Hi guys, thanks for stopping by again. Got another story I wanted to share with you on this Easter Sunday. I hope you all have a nice Easter wherever you're at. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about my maternal great-great-grandmother. This is Martha Ann Henderson. Henderson was her maiden name. It was Martha Ann Henderson Day, and this was her husband, Norman Day. And they, like I said, are my maternal great-great-grandparents, one of them, and kind of an interesting story that I wanted to share with you today, particularly about Martha Ann. Martha Ann was born 1835 in Missouri, and it was there that her family heard the prophet Joseph Smith speak, and they joined the church and moved to Missouri. And while they were in Missouri, of course, eventually were driven out, and they wound up in Nauvoo. Now, I found different stories about this, but there were either 10 or 11 children in the family when they got to Nauvoo. Martha Ann was six in line. She was the sixth child down, and so she had older brothers and sisters, the oldest being, I think, 16, and the youngest being kind of a newborn. Shortly after they arrived in Nauvoo, Martha Ann's mother passed away. And within 1 year, her father passed away. So we've got either 10 or 11 little children in Nauvoo. And basically they were just farmed out to different people. And but before they passed away, it was their desire that her parents said, "We want to go west." And so I can't find enough history to indicate who all made it, but I know that Martha Ann actually walked as a little girl all the way to Salt Lake. Found some stories in there that she was tired and hungry and barefoot for almost the entire trek out west. I did find that she was. Do we know the company? Okay, yes. The company she was with was the Abraham Smoot Company, and they left sometime in 1846. And according to some of the records I found, that group, let's see, I think there was almost several. It was a big one. I don't see it right now. Anyway, they arrived in the Salt Lake Valley in 1847. Now, of course, she was very young at the time. She didn't have really a family of her own, and so she began working. She became a very good seamstress. She became a very good cook, housekeeping, those type of things that she did as a young girl. And as a teenager, she didn't have really the life of a normal teenager. She basically had to support herself and work. It says that while she was walking across the plains, they considered her old enough to help with the cattle and the horses. And of course, there's a lot of stories that deal with Indians and everything from burning wagons to stealing cattle to running off horses that she had to deal with. 12 and 13 years old when she came to the valley, it says, here it is. They left, the Captain Smoot Company left. There were 2,000 men and women and children, 500 head of cattle. And so you can imagine that was quite an undertaking and just a logistics effort to move that many people across into the Salt Lake Valley. She stayed in Salt Lake area until her early teens and did work for a lot of different families. It says that she was quite proficient, and a lot of times not made a lot of money. She might be paid with a pair of shoes, or she might, and we just lost it all. she might have an opportunity to get a small bite to eat or something. Of interest, though, it says that she did get to know many of the early church leaders of the early leaders of the church, and we'll talk about that at the very end. She finally settled in Kaysville, Utah, and she was almost 23 years old. She went to a dance one evening, and there was a very handsome, very tall young man there by the name of Norman Day. Norman Day had also crossed the plains and had stopped in Utah on his way to California, where he was going to go work in the gold fields. And he met Martha Ann, and basically it says he changed his mind and decided that he would stay in Utah. And it says Martha would grown into a pretty young woman. She was short and petite, and convinced her to stay, and they were married in 1855, where they settled in the Kaysville area and eventually moved up to the Cache Valley, and then had 6, 7, 8, 9. They had a rather large family themselves. In some of the reports I read, it said they were never very wealthy. A lot of times they would just eat mush 3 meals a day. For Christmas, one of the reports from one of the children wrote that usually they had a donut at Christmas time. I think one of the things I found interesting to her is this is a lady that never really had much in the way of worldly things, including a childhood that I think most everybody would have taken for granted. Worked very hard her entire life. Of interest, I found that when she passed away, apparently, and I can't find a lot written about her encounters with the early church leaders, but in her obituary, and there's just a passing mention that she received counsel several times, and I would love to find out what that meant or what exactly was said. But in her obituary, it mentioned that she knew the first 7 presidents of the church, and that's pretty impressive. From Joseph Smith to Brigham Young, John Taylor, Wilford Woodruff, Lorenzo Snow. That's just incredible that she knew them and then met them, to include the prophet Joseph. So, and that's not going back that far. That's my great-great-grandmother, and that's pretty impressive, I think. So, I think as far as a legacy of family that have sacrificed and given up much, that's a wonderful story and a wonderful example to me of somebody who's never really become known or famous in the eyes of the world, but definitely has a wonderful story to tell. So again, thanks for stopping by. I hope you have a great Easter. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.